It was 4:20 p.m. in downtown Los Angeles when a bride sprinted out of the Grand Magnolia Hotel as though the building itself had caught fire. Her white satin gown swept across the sidewalk, collecting dust with every desperate step. She clutched a large white garment box against her chest with one arm, while her ivory heels dangled from the other hand. Tears had carved pale tracks through her carefully applied makeup, leaving mascara smudged beneath frightened blue eyes. Behind her, chaos spilled through the revolving doors. "Sophie, wait, please, sweetheart." Guests in formal clothes hurried after her. Hotel employees exchanged confused glances. Relatives shouted over one another. Even the wedding planner came running with a clipboard still in her hand. Sophie Carter didn't look back. She couldn't. If she looked back, she might remember the image she'd seen less than 5 minutes earlier, her fiancé kissing her maid of honor in a quiet hallway moments before the ceremony. The memory burned hotter than the afternoon sun. She ran across the street without thinking. At that exact moment, a man in a navy suit stepped out of the cafe on the corner, carrying a paper cup of black coffee and checking the time on his watch. She nearly collided with him. "I'm so sorry." Before he could finish, she shoved the white garment box into his hands. He blinked in confusion. She grabbed the sleeve of his jacket, looked straight into his eyes, and whispered, almost breathlessly, "Please." He stared at her. "Act like you're my fiancé." Silence. She swallowed hard. Just 10 minutes. For perhaps the first time in Adrian Hayes's meticulously organized 30-year life, his mind went completely blank. He had never seen this woman before. She was wearing a wedding dress. She was crying. She had just handed him a mysterious box. And now she wanted him to pretend to be her fiancé. Before he could ask a single question, a sharply dressed woman hurried toward them. "There she is," Sophie whispered without moving her lips. "Please." Adrian glanced from the frightened bride beside him to the determined woman approaching them. Something in Sophie's eyes stopped him from refusing. Without hesitation, he slipped one arm gently around her shoulders. He smiled with effortless calm. "There you are, honey." Sophie's eyes widened. For one ridiculous second, she almost laughed. She almost laughed. Margaret Sullivan, the groom's mother, finally reached them, slightly out of breath. "Oh, thank goodness," she said. "Everyone's looking for you." Sophie's fingers tightened around Adrian's sleeve. Adrian spoke before she could. "We just needed a little air." His tone was relaxed, reassuring, as though everything were perfectly normal. Margaret sighed with relief. "I told everyone the two of you would sort things out. The ceremony can still—" "I'm afraid that's not happening," Adrian interrupted politely. He said it so naturally that even Sophie looked at him in surprise. Margaret blinked. "What?" Adrian smiled apologetically. "My fiancé has had an exhausting day. I'm taking her somewhere quiet. We'll speak with everyone later." The older woman hesitated, just long enough. That was all Sophie needed. Adrian gently guided her away. They rounded the corner before anyone realized something was wrong. Only when they disappeared onto the next block did Sophie finally release the breath she'd been holding. She looked at Adrian. "I'm so sorry." He looked down at the garment box. "Should I ask?" She shook her head immediately. "Not yet." He nodded once. "Fair enough." They continued walking. After another block, Sophie's phone buzzed endlessly inside her purse. She silenced it without looking. Then another call, and another. Her entire family, friends, unknown numbers. She ignored them all. Finally, Adrian spoke. "Would you like to tell me why a bride just recruited a complete stranger?" She gave a weak laugh. "I caught my fiancé kissing my maid of honor." He stopped walking. "That's a good reason." She let out another humorless laugh. "I thought so too." They resumed walking toward the parking garage where Adrian had left his car. As they crossed the street, Sophie glanced anxiously at the garment box. "I have to return this dress before 5. Adrian frowned. "The dress? It's rented. If I don't return it today—" She forced herself to smile despite the lump in her throat. "They'll charge me $4,800. He looked at his watch. 4:29. "You have 31 minutes. "I know. My car? Towed. My phone? Almost dead. My wallet." She closed her eyes. "In the bridal suite." Adrian let out a slow breath. "You've had quite a day. You have no idea." They reached the parking garage just as another cluster of wedding guests appeared across the street. "There!" Someone pointed directly toward Sophie. "Oh no!" Without missing a beat, Adrian reached up and carefully tucked a loose strand of hair behind Sophie's ear. The gesture was unexpectedly gentle, unexpectedly convincing. An elderly aunt walking with the group smiled warmly. "Oh, look, they're fine now. I told you they only needed a little private time." Sophie bit the inside of her cheek to stop herself from laughing at the absurdity. If only that sweet old woman knew. The group continued walking without recognizing Adrian. Only after they disappeared did Sophie finally exhale. "I can't believe that worked. I've spent years presenting impossible building projects to skeptical investors," Adrian replied. "Pretending to be someone's fiancé wasn't the strangest meeting I've ever had." She laughed, a real laugh this time. The sound surprised both of them. By the time they reached the parking garage, the adrenaline keeping Sophie upright finally disappeared. The silence settled around them. No shouting, no footsteps, no wedding music, just concrete walls. And the distant hum of traffic outside. Sophie leaned against a pillar. Then, without warning, she broke. Not elegantly, not quietly. Great shaking sobs escaped before she could stop them. She covered her face with trembling hands. "I feel so stupid. I really loved him. I actually thought—" Her voice cracked. Adrian didn't interrupt. He didn't tell her everything would be okay. He didn't criticize her ex-fiancé. Instead, he quietly reached into his jacket pocket. He unfolded a clean white handkerchief and held it out. Nothing more. Sophie looked at it through blurred eyes, then slowly accepted it. "Thank you." He simply nodded. The parking garage remained silent. For the first time since the worst day of her life had begun, someone allowed Sophie Carter to cry without asking her to explain, to forgive, or to be strong. And somehow, that silent kindness comforted her more than any words possibly could. Adrian glanced at his watch the moment Sophie lowered the handkerchief from her face. 4:36 p.m. "We still have time," he said calmly. She blinked. "For what?" "To save you $4,800. The corner of her mouth twitched. It was the first practical sentence anyone had spoken to her all afternoon. Without another word, Adrian picked up the white garment box and motioned toward his car. "Come on." Los Angeles traffic, naturally, chose that exact afternoon to become unbearable. Every red light felt personal. Every delivery truck seemed determined to stop directly in front of them. Sophie bounced her knee nervously in the passenger seat. "We're not going to make it." "We'll make it. You sound awfully confident." "I'm an architect." She frowned. "What does that have to do with driving?" "I spend my life calculating time, distance, and contingency plans." He changed lanes with effortless precision. "We're still on schedule." She stared at him. "Do you always talk like a GPS?" "I've been told that before." Despite everything, she laughed. The bridal boutique came into view at 4:56 p.m. Adrian parked directly in front of the entrance. "Go." They hurried inside together. The garment box balanced carefully between them. A woman behind the counter looked up. "Oh, you made it." Sophie exhaled so deeply she almost collapsed. "I'm not late?" The employee smiled. 3 minutes to spare." Sophie closed her eyes. "I've never been happier to hear the words 3 minutes." The employee inspected the gown carefully before nodding with satisfaction. No damage, no stains, no late fee. Sophie felt a weight lift off her shoulders. One disaster had finally been avoided. The employee handed over a clipboard. Then she looked at Adrian. "Is she your wife?" Silence. Adrian looked at Sophie. Sophie looked at Adrian. Neither of them answered quickly enough. The employee smiled knowingly. "Oh, newlyweds." She pointed to the signature line. "Please sign here, husband." Adrian opened his mouth, closed it again. Without correcting her, he quietly signed. Adrian Hayes. The employee took the clipboard back without another question. "Wonderful. Congratulations to both of you." As they walked outside, Sophie stared at the signature receipt, then at Adrian. "You didn't have to do that. It seemed faster." She burst into laughter. Not a polite laugh, not an awkward one, a real, uncontrollable laugh, the kind that arrived after too much crying. Adrian looked at her for a second. Then, almost imperceptibly, he smiled too. Unfortunately, the universe wasn't finished with Sophie Carter.